Hello and welcome to the Arsenal Ramble, hosted to you as ever by myself, Dom, and my co-rambler, Dave. Now, in today's episode of the show, we're going to be doing a little preview for our away fixture this weekend against Everton, and also we're going to be talking about the January transfer market, which slammed shut last night, actually. So we're going to be talking about the personnel that Edu and Arsenal managed to get in the door, and how us Gunners feel about those transfers. So before we get into all of that, Dave, how are you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm all good, thanks, mate. Yeah, it seems like an eternity, doesn't it, since we've played in the Premier League? So I'm just buzzing to be able to watch the game on Saturday, so especially with it being an early one as well. I can't wait. But yeah, all good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah. I'm echoing that as well, to be honest. I do love the FA Cup, and it was nice to see us go up against a top calibre team like Man City, and unfortunately we lost that game. But it's nice to go back to what we've all been riding so high on this season, and the enthusiasm that we've all got for our club is because of this title charge in the Premier League. So it's nice to be fully focused back on that, and also to have all of the transfer business put to one side now because the transfer window is shut, and we've actually got a few new additions to the squad. So should we talk about those guys?
Yeah, I think so. That'd be a good one, a good way to start. Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
Yeah. So we were crying out for more depth in the squad, especially in the latter stages of December after the World Cup, and we're actually a bit worried because of the loss of Gabriel Jesus, and we started to go into meltdown, thinking that we really don't have many players that can come in and change a game. For example, one that jumps out to me is the game against Newcastle, where we literally had no depth on the bench at all. So it's what we've all been crying out for, and we've all been asking Arsenal and Edu to dip into their pockets and bring us some, of course, we all want world-class players to come to the team, but it's not always feasible for the right price, and especially not in January. So we wanted them to bring us some competent cover, and I feel like for the long and short of it, they have really. The first name in the door was Leandro Trossard, and originally I think we both had split opinions on him, but it seems he's the only player that's actually played for Arsenal so far that's come in, and he seems to be fitting in well.
Yeah, like you said at the start, it was a little bit underwhelming because of the links to Mudryk, and there's that element of excitement around Mudryk, wasn't there, and what he could be, and I think at first I was a little bit like, I just wanted that excitement within the signing, but when you sit back and you actually take it in, we've managed to get a really solid Premier League experienced, versatile winger that can come in and help strengthen those forward options. So I think realistically, the whole the window as a whole, I think the key word to describe it has been smart. We've not panicked. We've had to pivot at times, but especially with the Trossard deal, and obviously we'll come on to the Jorginho as well. But again, they're two smart signings, which will hopefully provide us with the strength in depth to help us push on now for this title charge, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. And when we're talking about our lack of strength in depth from the start of the season, it was across the board. It was literally in defence, midfield and attack. And if we were to then spend our whole transfer budget on one player like a Mudryk, for example, then we would be leaving ourselves exposed in other areas like midfield and defence. And no matter how good Mudryk is, if you don't have Thomas Partey and you don't have Gabriel in the team, then we're a very weak outfit. And so it's great that we have some competent cover in all of those three areas. And also what we're saying about Jorginho, and with him coming in, he's actually quite a similar transfer to Trossard, I'd say. He's come in. He's not really been what the fans have been asking for, but he's come in and he's a Premier League proven, experienced player. He can slot straight in if needs be, and I think, to be honest, with Jorginho, the ideal scenario is that he doesn't actually ever need to play, because and bear with me when I'm trying to make this point. It's even Trossard, Kiwior, and also Jorginho. We don't want these players to be playing because our first 11 is the team that's got us to the position that we're currently in. So in an ideal world, we want to just be playing those first 11 week in, week out, and it would be all sunshine and rainbows. But unfortunately, we don't live in the ideal world, and that's very rarely going to be the case. It's very rare that you can actually have a whole title-winning season, and go through the whole campaign without picking up these little injuries. So it's been a very pragmatic approach from Arteta, and a very wise decision to be able to get some reinforcements in all areas of the pitch. And I'm really happy that he's got the personnel in that he has, because they all seem to be experienced international players that won't need time to get up to speed, and we can call upon them when we need them.
Yeah, like you say, this is it. That this is the window done now as well. So what we've got is what we'll have now. This is it. Our title charge is now, and I've seen some images of what our bench will look like now we've got the new signings, and it's actually pretty strong. If you go through it and you think of the typical first 11, we've got Turner, we've got Tierney, we've got Kiwior, we've got Tomiyasu, Vieira, Smith Rowe, Nketiah, if Jesus is fully fit, that is. And then obviously Trossard as well, and Jorginho. Like, all of these players, really, really experienced, quality options that we've got now available to help us to get us over the line. And also, not only that, like you said, it's not all sunshines and rainbows. So we are going to need to rotate if we want to keep these starting 11 players fit and fresh for the Premier League games, if that's what we're going to be focusing on, which you'd like to think is going to be Arteta's focus now. But yeah, I mean, going back to the Jorginho one as well, I mean, I remember when it first got announced, and like with Trossard, again, I was a little bit underwhelmed. I get probably from the same sort of reasoning that we've been heavily linked with Caicedo, who most Arsenal fans sort of had their hearts set on a little bit, because you could see where he fit into this team, with him being quite versatile in the midfield, young, promising, potential to go right to the very top. It also didn't deter maybe future signing in Declan Rice, because they can work in the same team. So everyone was like, "Yeah, I see this. This can work." And then it's sort of the rug gets pulled out from underneath you, and you start to think, "Oh, for God, for God's sake, we've got Jorginho now." But as far as pivots go, it's a smart one. And I think that the biggest positive of it all is the fact that Arteta is was a key advocate of bringing Jorginho to the club. We know from previous that he tried to sign him for Man City, but when he went to Chelsea, when he was there, he also tried to sign him for Arsenal, I think 2 years ago. So yes, we've got him in, he's at 31 now, but he's a very experienced player, very intelligent player. And for that fee, rumoured 10 to 12 million in add-ons, 18 months as well as a deal, with a potential year to add on if Arsenal choose to do so. It doesn't really hamper any development, does it? So, it is a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is the sort of situation and opportunity where you should be making these short-termism signings. Players that are maybe a little bit just a little bit past their peak, but they can still perform and they can still be part of the squad. These were the type of signings that we were making to be a part of our first team a few seasons ago, and then that's where the issue was raised, really, because everybody everybody was saying when Jorginho first came up that he's just another Willian / Czech / David Luiz, and not just because of the Chelsea, the fact that he came from Chelsea, it's the fact that of his age as well. But
yeah,
Jorginho's not being bought to be our first starting player in centre mid. He's there in case anything goes wrong. He's an insurance policy basically. He's there as cover for Thomas Partey or for Xhaka if needs be. And that's the difference really, because when we brought in the likes of Willian, he was there and he was starting and he was hindering Saka's development. Petr Cech, I guess you could argue, had a pretty decent career, I actually think, at Arsenal. He didn't really do too much wrong until he got a little bit too old. And then obviously David Luiz, he had some good games, some bad games, and it's just wonderful to see how far our defence has developed since the David Luiz / Mustafi partnership. But yeah, I think it's completely different to what everybody on Twitter was saying about Jorginho, and I think I remember like secretly admiring him a little bit when watching him, especially when we played against Chelsea. I think we were winning 1-0 and he got substituted on, and the game really flipped, it spun on its head then, and he started to pull all the strings and really started to change the game for Chelsea. So I think he's a decent player. It's a very low risk signing, and it almost seems like the signing is too good to be true. Like Chelsea shouldn't be allowing Arsenal to have this decent, experienced player for such a small fee and a short period of time. But it seems like it's a signing that is good for all parties involved. So Chelsea, they get a bit of money for a player who otherwise would leave in 6 months' time. Arsenal, they've got a bit of reinforcements, and then Jorginho looks like he probably wants to stay in London and then maybe go back to Italy after his contract finishes and see out his career in his home nation. Yeah. So it's a good transfer for all involved. And we're going on to Kiwior. I've not really seen much from him at all, to be honest, and I'll be really interested to see how he performs and if he is able to get any starts or how he maybe sees the game out. If he's going to be like the left-sided Rob Holding, maybe, to see games out, who knows? But I can't really make too much of a judgment on that signing as of yet.
No, it's hard to make a judgment in terms of what his playing ability is going to be like in an Arsenal shirt. But what I do appreciate is everything that you can't see right now, i.e. the fact that he's at the prime age to already have developed somewhat, but can really kick on now in the Premier League. He's a big lad as well, which I do like to see that in a centre half. Relatively low fee in comparison to what other clubs are paying for centre backs. I think we may have potentially learned from our mistakes with this one, because if you look to the Mudryk deal, we probably could have signed him for 20-30 million in the summer, but we decided to wait, and his fee massively inflated because of decent performances in the Champions League and whatnot. So maybe this was a case of big clubs in Italy are sniffing around him, let's get him now in January and avoid that hefty price tag that gets put upon his head once it sort of prices us out the market, essentially. So yeah, I think this is a clever signing. Again, another clever signing, one for the future, but one that hopefully can provide a bit of strength in depth. And like we keep saying, these left-footed, left-sided centre-backs are absolute gold dust. So let's hope, that he turns into someone half as good as Gabriel, because that's only going to be good for Gabriel to have that on his heels.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree 100%. And I think the way that Arsenal do business is we do need to be making these punt, I wouldn't say punt, but well scouted signings, early developments when they're cheaper, to then make them into the players that they deserve to be, sort of thing. Because we can't afford as a club to be spending 70/80 million on a player in every single position, because we're not a club that's run like that. Teams like Arsenal, teams like Liverpool, we do not have the funds to be able to spend that sort of money on every single position. So to be able to build a squad, you need to be buying these players, scouting them out well, and developing them well. But I've actually got a stat here for the 2022/2023 net spend of teams in the Premier League. So Arsenal's net spend for this season is 146 million. And you've got other teams in there like West Ham, Newcastle, 169 million, etc. And then you've got Chelsea, which is 548 million in one season. Now, that is absolutely sublime. Like, how is that even allowed? Like, how is that? I know they're making all of these long, contracts, so it's spread over 7 years or so, but it just seems absolutely abhorrent that a player, that a team in the league with this new sugar daddy owner of Ted Bowley is allowed to just, come in and sweep every single player that he wants. But I actually saw something as well the other day. I think my brother sent it to me, basically saying that Ted Bowley was spinning himself into a vortex because he didn't understand that he wasn't allowed to place a bid on Jorginho.
Yeah, that's so true.
Tried to steal it from Arsenal.
Yeah, it is quite strange, actually, going back to how they've actually allowed us to sign him. I guess it's because they've got about 100 players in their squad, and they can only register so many, so that they've got to free up spots, haven't they? So I guess we've benefited from that slightly, but yeah, it's absolutely disgusting. And you'd like to think that at some point it's going to bite them in the ass. That they've got to have their accounts looked into, surely, and hopefully something along the lines of what's happened to Juventus this season will happen to them.
Yeah, I completely agree. Something else transfer related as well. Talking about the whole Caicedo fiasco and things like that, do you feel like we might have burnt a few bridges with Brighton over all of this? Because it seems like we really did try and push the boat out to get this player, and they were so insistent on not budging. And I think any football team would see that the amount of money that we were offering to get Caicedo for was more than enough, really. And he even said that he wanted to leave. So do you think this might put us off from doing transfer business with them in the future? And if so, that might be to our detriment, really, because Brighton, especially in the last few seasons, they're almost like a feeder club for the top clubs, like the new Southampton, so to speak. So,
yeah, I mean, like you said, it wasn't as if we were massively lowballing them, and it wasn't as if we were telling Caicedo to put all these tweets out explaining how that he really wants to go and whatnot. That was down to him. That was his decision. Nothing to do with us. We came in with a very respectable fee, because let's be honest, he's played 21 appearances for Brighton, and before that, I don't even know where he came from. So, this isn't a player that's worth any more than 40-50 million at best. So to say we went in with 60 and then 70, I don't think they can really have too much gripe over that. I can partially understand maybe once we got told on the first bid he's not for sale, but that's often that phrase, he's not for sale, is often is a bluff, essentially, isn't it? Everyone's got their price, and it wouldn't surprise me if that's the way that Edu, and I think Tim Lewis had a lot of involvement with the transfer negotiations as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's what they thought was, it's hard, isn't it? We don't see anything to do with it. It's all behind the scenes, but I don't think we can go away from this transfer saga thinking that we've done anything wrong. As well, we didn't go in for this third bid. We accepted. They didn't want to sell. Fair enough. You can't force anyone to sell a player. We moved on, and we ended it at that. And I think I saw reports saying that was one of the sort of dilemmas that they were questioning, whether they should go in for an improved bid for a third, or risk damaging and burning bridges with Brighton. But they obviously decided to not, that we're aware of, and pivot for Jorginho. But I don't think we've burnt any bridges, to be honest. What do you think?
No, I tend to agree, to be honest. I feel like, as you say, every player's got a price, and you've got to try and push the boat out to maybe tempt clubs to be selling these players. But yeah, I also agree, and I love how now it seems like we have a top figure in mind for players like Mudryk, like for Caicedo, and then when the club is trying to extort more money out of us, it's like we get to that point and we just say, nope, you know what, if you're going to ask for that, we're not going to do it. And then annoyingly, you have teams like Chelsea with all the money in the world, and then they'll just say, okay, yeah, we'll splash cash and we'll do that. And then that sets a precedent for all the other teams that are trying to sell these top quality players. So, for example, a player like Mudryk gets sold for over 100 million, and then Brighton are like, oh, well, we've got a talented 21-year-old who someone in one of the top teams in the Premier League wants to buy, so we're going to value him maybe 80, 90, 100 million. And it's like, no, it shouldn't be like a rule set for that kind of transfer. But I feel like teams like Man United and Chelsea are definitely to blame for how ridiculous, even Man City to a certain extent as well, with spending 100 million on Jack Grealish a few seasons ago. It's ludicrous money, and it's money that we really can't afford. So I feel like I'm happy if my club fails to get some of these top transfer targets, if they can bring in undiscovered talent and harbour that kind of harbour that raw talent to be able to turn it into something special, like a lot of the guys that we've already seen come into the club, especially like young Martinelli. So that's where I stand with our transfer business. And I'm all in all, I'd say it was probably like a 8 out of 10 market for me. What about you?
Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of pundits and people that work in the game actually saying that Arsenal have had the best January window out of all the Premier League teams, which obviously includes Chelsea. But, a lot of the people that will say Chelsea have had the best window aren't really looking at the big picture, because they've massively overpaid for a lot of players. They've probably disrupted their squad harmony must be in bits. Not to forget that they even messed up the Ziyech deal. He was meant to go on loan to PSG right at the end of the window, but messed up that. So he's now forced to remain at Chelsea. All of these little things are not going to make for a very friendly dressing room. So I'm actually really looking forward to seeing how that unfolds, But I think overall, I'm pretty happy. We're stronger than we were from when the season started to now, and we're already top of the league with only losing one game. So you'd like to think that we're in a better position. So that means we're going to go and not lose any games, right? That's how it works, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Yeah, but yeah, as you say, we're literally the same squad that we went into the transfer market as, except we're even stronger. So that could only be a good thing. So should we talk a little bit about the game that we're playing at the weekend against Everton at Goodison Park? So it's going to be the early kickoff on Saturday, and Goodison Park is a ground that in recent history we've actually tended to struggle at. We in our last 5 fixtures at Goodison Park, we've had 1 win, 1 draw and 3 losses. So it doesn't really bode too well on recent form. However, that being said, we had an almost identical record against Spurs away, and look at what we did there. So it just shows you that recent history, recent form against those clubs in those away grounds doesn't always, tell the story of the day. So
no,
Everton, they're currently dwindling near the bottom of the table, which it's been, in the last couple of seasons, that's been whereabouts they've been. They've not really performed to a kind of standard which is worthy of anything more than that. No. And they're also another team that spent a lot of money on getting all these players in, but they just don't seem to gel well together. So what is your take on the Everton match? Are you hopeful going into the game?
Oh, I'm definitely hopeful. The only thing, like you said, the past fixtures and results don't really come into my mind that much. It's more the current things, I guess, that I'm more worried about, and the main one being the fact that they've just got a new manager in Sean Dyche. There's always that potential for like a new manager bounce. You've got a group of players wanting to perform really well in their first game for Sean, and is that going to provide them a little bit of an edge? I don't think it will. I think we're miles stronger than Everton, to be honest. We haven't. They've not won a game in 6 games. There is relegation form, hence the sacking of Lampard. So I am, I'm massively confident for this one. I really am.
Well, just saying about the last 6 games, one thing that does spring to mind in their recent form is, so in their last 5 games, they've lost 4 and they've drawn 1, but the game that they drew against was against Man City. So that's the only thing that does slightly worry me, because they tend to be a team that can sit back and they can absorb the sort of pressure that they're gonna get from Arsenal, because we play in a very similar way that Man City do. So they're going to be a threat on the counter for sure. Players like Damari Gray, he scored against Man City, he scored against us last season. He could be a bit of a threat for Arsenal, but I feel like we've got the facilities to be able to deal with players like him. And that's the only thing. It does always seem to fall this way, that a team gets a new manager just before we play them. I remember when was it Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got sacked, and then what's his face came in. So it seems like that's a bit of a bad omen, but I do think we've got it in our locker, and we should be getting the 3 points in this game and returning the good feeling back at Arsenal after a bit of a dip after we lost in the FA Cup. But so talking about starting 11, I don't think we need to make too many changes. For me, talking about our last league game, not the FA Cup game, I think it would be pretty much a carbon copy for me. What about you?
Yeah, the only thing that we might have to consider is if that Partey injury was more serious than reported on. A lot of what's come out is that it's just like bruising to the ribs, which isn't obviously that serious. I'd like to think that he can recover in the time it's taken since that Man City game. But yeah, apart from Partey, I think that like you say, the rest of the team really does speak for itself. So I do wonder whether we'll see any of our new guys. Although, actually, having said that, I think Trossard is a doubt because his partner is due to give birth to their child any day now. So I think he's been given sort of potential leave to accommodate that. So we might not see Trossard feature this week, but it all depends on what when his partner gives birth, I guess.
I think Trossard needs to put his priorities into perspective, to be honest, because other players in the team like Gabriel, he had a kid and then the next day he was playing. So, if you want to do it for the badge, you got to be able to perform. I'm only joking, but the thing is, if we've got Martinelli and Saka, then we should be fine, in those areas. And I think Trossard's already done enough to reinvigorate Martinelli. So hopefully he's back and he's firing and he's ready to start the game. But I was going to say, if Partey was injured, then do you think there's a big case for Jorginho maybe getting his first start?
Yeah, especially with El Neni suffering that ACL injury. That's him out for the rest of the season. So, and we've also loaned out Sambi Lokonga. We've not even, I forgot to talk about that. We've sent out Lokonga on loan to Crystal Palace. So that is a little bit of a weird one for me. Because the whole point was we need not just the numbers, because there's more to it than just numbers, but we do need that strength there if injuries do occur. And obviously, one of the worst injuries you can have has just occurred. So to I know Lokonga's not been great this season, but it does seem a little bit rash. It's a good move, though. Don't get me wrong. I think Crystal Palace is probably one of the best teams he could have gone to learn from the man himself, Vieira. So
I think, to be honest, the reason why we even got Jorginho in the first place is because Arteta doesn't think that Lokonga is competent enough to be starting in this team. So I do think that's the reason why he's been loaned out, because, you hit the nail on the head when you say we need depth, but it's not just about numbers, because it is definitely about quality. And I like Lokonga. He's got a really high ceiling. He could be a top player if he does develop well, but I don't think he really deserves a place in our team for the remainder of this season in terms of being a starter. So that is why Arteta and Edu's arm was forced to be able to have to buy another centre mid with top quality like Jorginho. So
yeah,
I think a move to Crystal Palace was a clever move, really. He's going to be having 6 months of Premier League experience. A team that's not, they're not a relegation team. They're a decent enough attacking team as well, because Palace do like to attack. So I think he'll get a wealth of experience there, and that could only be a good thing going into next season.
Yeah, he's such a confidence player, isn't he? And he only gets confidence when he's playing. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword with that. He wasn't getting that at Arsenal. And this seems like a perfect move. So I think, whilst it seems strange, I think when you weigh up the either ors, it's probably the right decision.
Oh, yeah, absolutely agree. And so we may end up seeing Jorginho feature. And even if Partey has had a little bit of an injury and he does end up starting but then can't make the full 90 minutes, then I have full faith that Jorginho could maybe come on 50, 60 minutes in and see the game out if we're winning, because his ball retention is one of the best in the league, to be honest. Jorginho, he's really good on the ball and keeping the ball and keeping it ticking. He's not the most mobile of players, and you're not going to see him bursting through the lines, but he can definitely keep the ball. So that would be a good thing to keep your eye on. And also Kiwior would be interesting to see if he's named in the squad or if he gets to feature as well. So and also Everton, they are quite a physical team. They do whip in a lot of crosses, so you never know. We might have a double Roberto Holdini plus Kiwior, with the 5 something, get 4 centre backs in the box towards the end of the
game. Yeah. No, I think there's a strong case for Jorginho playing. It seems like the sort of game that will be suited to him, and if we can ease the pressure on Partey's ribs, then why not? Because, like you say, he's press resistant, really good on the ball, good passing. I think we're going to have the majority of the ball against one of the weakest teams in the league. I know we're away, but yeah, it does sort of make sense, doesn't it? I can certainly see Jorginho getting minutes tomorrow. Not tomorrow, sorry, Saturday.
On Saturday, yeah. And I think if we are to win that game, then we're playing before Man City, aren't we? So we will go, is it 8 points again? 8 points ahead of Man City?
8 points. 8 points ahead, yeah, with Man City having to play Tottenham away on the Sunday. So, a win is big because it piles on the pressure, like we keep saying. And we know from last season that they didn't win it, in that fixture. So
but Spurs are a different kettle of fish this season, aren't they? It's an easy 3 points when you go to the toilet bowl, isn't it? So.
Well, I think this is one of the few times where we're supporting Spurs in this one, aren't we? It feels gross to say. It does feel weird to say, but hopefully they can get something from that game.
Yeah, we can only hope. To be fair, I think Man City are going to roll all over him, because I feel like for the rest of the season now, they're going to be clinging onto our coattails and chasing us all the way to the finish line. And I think it's good that we've got this potential 8-point lead, because we're going to need it, because there are going to be points. And I think maybe in the next 5 to 10 games, there's going to be points where we're absolutely going to need it. It's not going to be plain sailing. We're not going to win every game to the end of the season, although we think we might, but that's not going to happen. Yeah. And there's going to be bumps in the road. And it just shows you how important it is to be picking up 3 points, especially away from home in games like Everton, because those are the games that, if you're going to trip up, you can maybe drop 2 points and, only come out with a draw and only get a point. And then they're gaining ground on you. And if they're consistently gaining ground on you, it puts the pressure on, and then that can be cause for collapse. So in our next few games, we've got Everton, then we've got Brentford. You'd expect a decent return for them too. And then we have got the big one, Arsenal versus Man City. So if we can get to that point while still being 8 points adrift, then it puts us in a massively decent position to come out of that game pretty much unscathed.
Yeah, are we home or away for that Man City game, the first one?
We are home.
Home. I think that's good for us. To get the home one done first gives us the more likely victory, and we get that. If we get that win or something from that game,
could be potentially 11 points.
Yeah, then even if we go to them to the Etihad later in the season, and worst case scenario lose, we've nullified each other. We've taken 3 and lost 3. So, which obviously you'd probably take, wouldn't you, if you was offered that before the game? So, yeah.
If, for example, so say if we beat Everton and we beat Brentford, and then Man City win their games that they're expected to win until we play them, and we do retain this 8-point lead. If we then beat Man City on the 15th of February, we'll be 11 points ahead of Man City. And then the next fixtures for Arsenal are Aston Villa, Leicester, Bournemouth, Fulham, Palace, and Leeds. Now, you expect from that run of fixtures, we're not dropping too many points either. I don't want to jinx us, but if we go into that run of fixtures with an 11-point gap between us and the team that's in second, then it is really, time to maybe get a little bit excited.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If we can come through this little period plus the City game, be in a healthy position, then wow, we're laughing a little bit, aren't we? I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I can't help but think like that's such a strong position to be in with those sort of games. But it's hard to say that, because every game in the Premier League, home and away, is difficult. There's just no easy ones. So
yeah, exactly.
Anything can happen. And especially with this Everton team, because we've so many times we've lost to them in stupid games where we shouldn't have. The Damari Gray goal, I just keep seeing flashbacks to that all the time. So fingers crossed we can get something on Saturday.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just a flip side to the point that I made, because I want to bring our feet back to the ground a little bit, because I said about that run of fixtures. So in April, if for example they do tend, if Man City claw some points back on us in April, we've got Man City away, and then we're playing Chelsea at home, then Newcastle, and then we're playing Brighton in four games. So, and all of those teams have been great this season. So, well, apart from Chelsea, but they've been good in the transfer market. That's about it. So, so that's the flip side to it. You're going to have easy runs, and you're going to have hard runs. But fingers crossed, we can get through on Saturday. In fact, I'm not even going to say get through. Hopefully, we put on a good performance and we absolutely batter them.
Yeah, I think that's key because, like with the transfer window, it's been a little bit draining here and there. You get all these comments about, we've not done this, we've not done that, we've missed out on Mudryk, we've missed out on Caicedo. Sometimes you just need a good game where you play really well and everyone just forgets all about it. Just like we did with Mudryk when we saw him come on for Chelsea and he played really well, and then a week later Trossard comes on for us, does even better, contributes to a winning goal against Manchester United in the dying minutes, and we forgot who Mudryk is. We've got Trossard, so we just need something. We just need a really good game on Saturday, just to not that the spirits are low, but just to reinvigorate everyone. Premier League's back. Like I said at the start of the podcast, it seems like a while, and we could just keep that ball rolling and keep the momentum going for the title.
Yeah, exactly. And every single time that we talk about potentially getting the title, it does just make me a little bit more excited. So I think we might have chatted about everything today in terms of the transfer deadline day window shutting and the Everton preview for the weekend. Is there anything else you want to add?
I've got one more thing. It's a little bit off topic, but still Arsenal related, obviously. But as we're speaking, the Roms and Lorient game has just finished 4-2. Now our loanee Balogun plays for the Roms and managed to get 3 goals. He got himself a hat-trick tonight, which puts him joint top scorer of the French league. Can you just fathom that? Like, how well is he doing? And what position is that putting us in come the summer?
That's unreal form, really, for considering where he was at the start of last season when we were getting absolutely ripped apart by Brentford, and he was starting for us. He looked like a mouse, yeah. But this is going to be really key for his development. And if he is going to be able to come back into the Arsenal team, then this is the sort of things you want to be seeing, the sort of stats you want to be seeing. It is going to be a bit of a straight shootout between if we should get him back or Mbappe. But as it stands, they've got a similar goal return this season. But I'm only joking. But yeah, I'm buzzing about that, to be honest, because it can only be a good thing for Arsenal, because if we do end up having to sell him on, then that's going to add a massive amount to his transfer value. And if he wants to come back and be part of the squad for Arsenal, then we've got another top quality striker there. So, yeah, buzzing, really.
Yeah, he's not just putting in he's not just getting lucky goals either. These are really big, well taken goals. I think even last week he scored a 95th, 6th winner against an equaliser against PSG. These are big games that is cropping up in.
Yeah, I saw that goal. It was good, wasn't it? He got played through. He looked like he had electric pace, really, didn't he? He got played through, and then he goes around the keeper and then just, calmly puts it in. It shows that his confidence is really growing, isn't it? He's starting to look like a man playing in the men's game now, rather than looking like a teenage youth academy player that's just getting a few minutes. So, I'm really pleased for him.
Yeah, no, that's all I had to say, really. I just thought I'd bring that up because that is obviously a very tantalising prospect come the summer. Can we integrate him in the team, or we sell him in the transfer market and potentially make a decent fee that we can reinvest into the squad elsewhere where it's better needed? What do you think?
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and it's great that we've got the option there to be able to either reintegrate a great up-and-coming young player or sell him on and get extra money. And this is what a decently run club should be doing. They should be either using their youth team or using young players that they buy and, training them up, and you've got that decision. Then you've got a wealth of options to be able to either get profit and then do it all over again, or keep them and hopefully they progress. So I think it can only be a good thing for Arsenal and for Balogun. So yeah, I'm happy either way, whatever we do.
It's a good situation. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think we've covered just about everything now today, including Balogun as well in his incredible goal-scoring form. So we will see you next time after the Everton game, which is on Saturday. So we'll probably be recording probably Saturday evening or so. So yeah, we'll see you next time, guys. If you want to catch us on YouTube instead of listening to us on the audio platforms, you can follow us on YouTube by subscribing to the Arsenal Ramble, and we are the Arsenal Ramble _ on Twitter as well. So thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you, guys. Take care.